All right, hi everybody, and welcome to New Path and the early intervention therapy session. Therapy services during COVID. Wow. I think that this is going to be a great conversation, and I hope everyone is able to get something out of this session. Let me introduce myself. My name is Robin Church. I am the New Path Family Support Director with the ARC of Virginia. And with me, I have some folks that are throughout the state, way southwest, north. We've got some people from some rural localities, and I would like for them to introduce themselves and what they do and where they're located. Kathy, we'll start with you.
Yes, and thank you, Robin, for this opportunity. And welcome to all of the participants at the convention. My name is Kathy Phillips. I'm the local system manager for the Middle Peninsula Northern Neck area, which is 10 counties from Gloucester up to Colonial Beach and Westmoreland and over to King William. So we're quite rural. We love the area. I also serve I'm a developmental therapist also, and serve frequently as a member of the evaluation team for our little ones.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for taking the time to come out and help us with this. Diane?
I'm Diane Kelly, and I work with Kathy as an occupational therapist in the Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck regions as well.
Thank you, Kathy. And Ann?
Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Ann Ledgerwood. I'm a physical therapist. I work in the far southwest with two different community services boards. One is Mount Rogers, the other is Highlands. I have done early intervention for a very long time, probably 35 years. So I've seen a lot of change and a lot of things. Kathy, probably you may have been doing it for a long time too, so you know what I mean. There's been a lot of change that's happened, but I'm happy to be here and have this opportunity to talk to you all and share whatever knowledge I might have.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you for coming. All right, Ashley.
Hi, my name is Ashley Adams, and I am a speech-language pathologist, and I also work in the same area that Ann does in Southwest Virginia. And I cover both of those same community service boards, Mount Rogers and Highlands. And I have been doing this for about 19 years in this area.
Wow. All right. We've got some experts out here. So thank you, Ashley. Thank you all for joining us. And we are going to have a little discussion about therapy and how therapy has been looking throughout the state and with the children and how it's changed our way of thinking, our way of providing services to the families out in the community throughout the state. I know that things have been difficult for everyone, including you guys, and many families out there just trying to do the best they can with what they have. And sometimes that can be very difficult and very hard. And so, Kathy, I wanted to ask you about census and how things have been looking since COVID. And I know that early intervention services are much needed service out in the community throughout the state. And so with COVID, before COVID, I know you guys were just back to back to back to back. So how has COVID affected your services and your census?
Well, it definitely has. When this first hit, of course, we were thinking, well, a month, couple of months, and here we are 6 months in.
Right.
At first, really the first week or so, we had no referrals and we were really worried. So we did reach out to our local pediatricians. Diane and one of our physical therapists worked on a letter to send to our physicians and let them know that yes, we're open for business. We're happy to take their referrals, and please keep them coming. And that definitely helped. Our numbers are just as high as they have always been. We're happy to get them. Of course, the hospitals never did slow down with making their referrals. And over the past really month or so, we have seen a nice increase in parents making referrals. Which
Oh, wow, that's great.
that has, you know, our largest number of referrals have always come from the local pediatricians. But second to that has always been families. And we were pleased to see that the word was getting out to them also, that again, we're open for business. We're looking at different ways to do business. Yes, it has been a change, but change is good.
Change can be a good thing. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's great to hear that the families are able to make the referrals themselves.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. The plan is to get back with them within 24 hours to begin the intake.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so business has not really slowed down. It did at first, I guess, like everything. When COVID came, everything kind of stood still for a while, and everybody was trying to, I think, process what was happening and which direction do we go and what is this going to look like now. And so it's great to hear that you guys have been still plugging on. Thank you for your dedication, all of you, for that. That can be difficult. All right, and so how successful, for some of the others, how successful has therapy been during COVID? How, you know, I know that when my son was going through early intervention, the therapist would come to the house and come inside and sit on the floor and work with my son and do certain things. But since COVID, how has it changed? And are all of you, like the OT and PT and speech pathologists, which I'm really anxious to hear about, because with masks and people far away, how do you even do that? So I'm hoping you can share some insight on that. So Diane, let's start with you. What does it look like in your area of expertise and being an OT, and how is it working?
Well, it's been very interesting. We started off with going into telehealth and doing therapy over Zoom, and that was typically where we started with families, if they were able to get Zoom or if we had to transition to another form of communication. Most families were able to kind of come together and have the internet service. That's one of the hardest parts, is not being able to connect with families that don't have internet or just cell phone service in general. So we've really been working with trying to get either Zoom or over the phone. We're transitioning back now some in the homes, which has been a big change and is still a learning experience for us right now, because it's different in every home, and it's all a safety risk for us right now, but we're still figuring that out and still working through that. But we initially, started with Zoom, and it was helpful, but for some families, it's better to be in the home. Some families, it worked really well through Zoom. So it kind of changes for each family, and kind of go with the flow for right now and figure out where you're going to do.
Okay. So a lot of Zoom, if you can, a lot of Zoom meetings. What about you, Anne? How is that working how is that working for PT? That I can see that must be a lot of hands-on that's got to happen for PT, and you're, with the fine motor and all the stuff that you guys do, and with the legs and the gross and fine motor. How in the world does it happen from afar?
Well, we just do the best we can. We've been working on the whole coaching model for many years now, so it's really challenged and sharpened, I think, our coaching skills. It is a bit of a challenge to work with children that we are doing an assessment over Zoom, and I can't actually put my hands on a child for the assessment to determine certain things like muscle tone. That's been a real challenge. And then also in the PT world right now, we see a whole lot of torticollis and a lot of children with misshapen heads. And that can be tricky, trying to really look at that and do a good assessment to know where we need to go. Do we need to refer for a helmet? All types of things. So that can be really challenging. The internet has been a big challenge for us in our rural area as well, because some families just don't have access to internet And then some families are actually a little bit afraid, I think, of the Zoom, of not understanding exactly what it is. And one thing I have found very interesting in it, having done a lot of home visits over the years, is when I'm in a home, and I love to go in homes, I love to be a part of it, but it's very different just looking through the screen, because there's typically a lot of noise when you go into a home. You know, the TV's on, or the children are playing, the dogs are barking, whatever it is. But when you're in it, it's all around you, and it doesn't seem as overwhelming. But for me, there have been a few times when I would be sitting, and then there's absolute, well, you know, almost chaos and tons of noise coming all from one direction that seems a little more overwhelming to me than when I'm sitting in it. So that has felt that way to me anyway. But I think the coaching, it's been good for us. You know, we look through the screen and we're saying, okay, especially from a PT standpoint, trying to help a family understand about helping a child sit where they should put the child's arm, whatever, is being able to take what I see and say, okay, move your arm, mom, move your arm down to the elbow, move to your child's right arm, you know, all that kind of thing, of being able to describe it and help the parent do that. I think families really want to, and are doing the best they can. I will say that in the beginning, I think that the telehealth was a little bit easier, but I think families are weary of it. And I don't know how the rest of you all feel, but I have had families in the beginning that it went pretty well, and they were faithful to be there when we called and all this kind of stuff. And now there's some that are like, you know, we just want to wait till you can come back.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, I can tell Diane.
Yeah.
Too. And you can't blame families. Part of what I think makes early intervention so magical, at least it has for me, is the human interaction and the becoming very close to families over the course of time. When you're in their homes as long as we are, they really come to rely on us in many ways, more than just providing information and how to help their child. You know, it's a lot more than that. So I've talked too much, but I think that's really what I see is what, you know, I miss some of those things. I think it's certainly been good. And it's been necessary, but the internet is the biggest challenge, I think, out where we are. Is there, in fact, tonight today, as we're doing this, I am coming from my dad's house because my internet is so poor at my house that I can't do it from there. So I'm down here at my dad's house. So, and that goes to, you know, it's a significant problem here.
Thank you, Anne, for sharing all of that. So it sounds kind of like the same as Diane's with. And that's probably all through with the internet, the issue with internet and people having access to internet in order to receive the virtual services. That I can see that being quite the challenge. Ashley, how about you? How about now speech? What does that look like?
So my caseload primarily consists of kids with feeding disorders. So I'm speaking a little bit, you know, from that perspective. In a way, it's been really good because I've been able to join in with routines and things that I maybe wouldn't have been able to. Like I've actually been doing a Skype meeting at 7 o'clock every Wednesday with a little girl for dinner time. Whereas if I were doing that face-to-face, I obviously wouldn't have that opportunity. Right. So that's a plus to it. It was definitely a learning curve for all of us. I mean, we laugh and joke, Anne and I do, especially because we're just not even familiar with the technology ourselves. So trying to help families navigate it, and, you know, 2-year-olds hanging up the phone on you, and, you know, it was just kind of comical in the beginning.
Sure.
But I think too, we also tried to send out like a handout to our families that had kind of what to expect on a video visit or for a virtual visit, and kind of gave them an outline of kind of what it would look like and maybe what things they could have ready. And, you know, just to kind of give them an outline, because I think it does feel a little bit overwhelming when somebody's just watching you through a video screen. And I think that helped families initially kind of say, okay, I'm going to try this. You know, it may not be perfect, but we're going to give it a try. And I would say it's been really empowering for some of my families because we've had lots of coaching, training, and we really had to utilize those to the nth degree with this, you know, because you're really having to truly coach that family and give them strategies and talk them through and troubleshoot different things over a phone or a video. And I think for some families, because they were so much more hands-on than they would have been if we were there in person, it really helped them feel like, wow, I can do this for my kid, and I can make a difference in my kid's life. And that we were really just that support person for them.
So just so that everyone understands, including myself, when you say coaching, can you explain what that means? Because I've heard that a couple of times, and I just want to make sure everybody understands what it means when you say when you're coaching a family.
Yeah, I mean, we start typically just kind of by observing a routine, whether it's mealtime or bath time or outside time. And then we talk about a strategy, and we maybe will model it for the family and then let them practice that with their child.
Okay.
And then we kind of give them feedback to follow up. How did that feel? Do you think that will work? Do you want to try that this week? And then kind of follow up with them at the next visit to see how that's going. So it's a different approach, especially than the way that I was trained in school. I mean, we were totally hands-on and maybe wouldn't have even had the parent in the room, totally different. But it's been so wonderful to see families step up and really be able to engage with their child in a way that maybe they wouldn't have before. It's not for all families, for sure. There have been challenges, but I've definitely been surprised at how many families have really felt like they were making a difference. And we've seen some really amazing progress with these kids. And I really think it's because the families are more involved than they maybe would have been had we been there in person.
Wow, that's huge. And you had said something earlier about empowering the families. And I remember when my son was younger and going through early intervention, I was afraid to touch him when the therapist was there. I mean, I was literally afraid to touch him because he was so low toned, below muscle tone, and floppy. He was considered a floppy baby. And so they would come in and work with him and want me to put my hands on him. And I was just, no, I'm not the therapist. I can't do this. So I can imagine being in this situation now with therapists like you guys, coaching these families and supporting them and lifting them up to help them through this process. It's huge. I know that you're making a difference to the lives of the families and the caregivers and the parents, to let them know that they've got this, that they can do this. I mean, it's pretty amazing. What do you do, Diane? I don't know if you can answer. What do you do in situations where, like, the family, there's a struggle with internet, or Ashley or Ann, anybody, there's a struggle with internet. How do you help those families? What if you called me and said, hey, we have an appointment and I can't get I don't have internet? Do we reschedule? What happens?
Well, I can tell you what I've had happen. Right before the pandemic hit, I had gone to see a little girl in Marion, and she had very low tone. I saw her one time, and then the pandemic hit. They don't have much internet at all. And the mom really struggled. She never wanted to, it took me a while to figure out she never wanted to try to do Zoom. She had internet, but she didn't want to do it. She always wanted a phone call. So I did that for a few weeks, but I was trying to understand, because I had only seen the child one time. It was very difficult to give her any good advice, even though she would talk to me about these things. And I finally figured out that I don't think she knew how to do Zoom, because she did not have an iPhone, so we couldn't use FaceTime. So finally I said to her, because I was really desperate, I was like, I have to see this child. I can't give her any more information just by what she tells me. And I said, do you do Facebook? She goes, oh yeah, of course everybody does Facebook. I said, okay, I'm going to call you on Facebook Messenger. Is that okay? And she said yes. And that was able to work where she was. Now, I know that's not ideal, but it was the only option we had. The only option. And I could not give her good information on what she was just telling me. And I'm trying to envision in my mind when I had only seen the child once. And I think that's a real important part for me. I just want to mention quickly, the families that I have known for a long time and have established relationship with them, it's been pretty easy. But the new ones, the one like this child that I had seen one time, another child that I actually did the assessment online, which as a physical therapist was like way outside my thought process even. It's been much harder because those relationships are not established. So I don't know, some of you all may have felt that way as well. It's not that you can't do it, but the ones that know us and we're all kind of family already, it's been much, much easier. That's been very true with our families also. Yeah. And we'll use any platform, Facebook, FaceTime, Duo, there's Google Duo, there's so many different options. And we have, I mean, we're under a CSB, but we have gotten, and they're very strict about confidentiality. But we have been allowed to use just about anything. We've also done just what Ann did to be on this today. We've either talked to families about where they could go to a relative's house to get better internet, or we've even had therapists who will use the hotspot on their phone and park in the driveway and do Zoom in the car with the family. So they have internet.
And something else too for me as a therapist that I feel like's been a little bit more effective when you're doing the phone sessions has been sending videos back and forth. That's been really helpful so that I can actually see the kid. And a lot of times you see more of what they're doing because they don't really realize we're there. So they're not hiding or doing anything like that. They're showing
probably the best part.
Right. So I think that that's been helpful too, just having videos and that kind of access. But we have even, I mean, done distances, like we'll be outside and they'll be playing and we'll be away from them. Really anything at this point so that we can see the kid too. Because it's like she said, I agree totally. It's definitely hard to make these relationships with these families when we haven't met them. The families that we already have these relationships with, it's been super easy to transition and know how they learn and how they're going to understand different things. Whereas the families we haven't seen in person, it's kind of hard to determine whether they're a visual learner or they're a verbal learner. You know, what kind of things can we do to make them best understand and try to get through to them. So
right. So did I hear you right? Did you say you'd go into the driveway and sit in the car?
With the hotspot, we have hotspots on our agency phones. So we'll sit there so that the family can connect through our internet inside.
And the families they engage with that type of
Oh, yes, yes.
Oh,
and a lot of the schools in our area have hotspots, and they're doing that for their school-age children to have the parents come. I think there were some hotspots on buses, and they drove the buses around to different locations. So it's definitely been an opportunity for being as creative as possible.
Yes.
Wow. Ashley, did you have something?
No, I just agree. I mean, you just have to think outside the box. And the great thing about most therapists is we're pretty good at that anyway. We've just had to get even more creative. And I think too, just having a network, like even hearing you say that, Kathy, about the hotspot, I don't think any of us have actually thought to do that. That's a great thing. And just networking with other therapists and trying to kind of, you know, say, what are you doing? How did you navigate this? You know, what worked better for this? So it's great to have that team for sure.
Absolutely. Guys, I can't.
An expanded team.
I'm sorry, Kathy?
It's a very expanded team now across the state.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I think that you guys deserve celebration and praises because just listening to the stories that each of you have shared is, you know, the links that you're willing to go, and you don't have to do that, but you do. The links that you go to help these families engage so that their child gets the service that they need from you all. And like I said, when my son was younger, I never experienced anything like this, and I never would have thought that something like this would happen, to where you're trying to be creative, where you have to be creative, like you said, and you're using Facebook, you're sitting in the parking lot, you're watching the child outside in the yard playing and doing things, with their parent or guardian or caregiver at that time. And the lengths that you guys go to, you really deserve a big, huge celebration because of what you're doing and the services that you're providing to this family. So I want to, on behalf of the ARC and New Path, I would just want to say thank you for doing that, because that's huge. You guys are really going out of your way. And you hear about telehealth and you think just that, telehealth. It's on Zoom or it's on the phone. But you don't think of someone actually coming out and sitting in your driveway, or watching your child at the park, or even going through Facebook. I mean, I would have never thought of Facebook, It's just amazing. And
Sorry.
you guys are awesome. You're really, truly awesome. And if there's any families that's watching this and is not sure about telehealth, I hope that they gain something from this, and to know that there is a way that you guys are able to make it work. It's phenomenal. How long does the session usually last? Sessions usually go for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, right? I know you guys have probably notes to take and you have travel time and all this. So how long does it last? And what is the difference now? Or is there any difference since COVID?
We've had to make some adjustments for sure, because an hour on the video or phone with a 2-year-old is not typically going to happen. So we try to do things like, if it's a patient that I'm seeing once a week for an hour, for telehealth, I've been seeing them twice a week for 30 minutes. Or I might do like a 15-minute phone call with mom at the beginning of the week to check in and see how things are going, and then do another 45-minute visit later in the week. So you do have to get creative for sure, because I don't think most kids, that's a long time, to engage the family and the child.
Yeah.
So we've definitely made adjustments in that.
We've been similar as well, doing like, either if we do them twice a month for an hour each time, we'll split it up as well. But I think too, a big thing for us was the change in, they have siblings at home, whereas they may have been at school or out and about, and they're all at home too. So even for the families and the parents, an hour is a really long time to be able to give someone your attention, and especially over the computer or over the phone. So yeah, I totally agree. We've had to adjust it quite a bit.
Yeah. And for the same thing for you too?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Just adjust as needed. And for me, it's also a little bit different too, because I do a lot of supervision of PT assistants. I have some of my own children that I see as well, but it's a very interesting what it allows in terms of the freedom now. I find very interesting. We have also, just as Diane mentioned, we've started back with some face-to-face visits. And last week we needed to do a joint visit for a child, and it was my dad's birthday. And he had asked to go see his brother. So I was like, I need to go do this. But nonetheless, I still needed to do this joint visit. But it was okay because we could do it. Even though I'm standing under a tree in a different town, we could still do it. And I thought to myself as I'm standing there, and Lindsay, the PT assistant, is there with the family and showing me all these things, and we're able to do this joint visit this way. And I thought, I've been working for 40 years, and I could never have envisioned when I was in physical therapy school that this would ever be possible. It's like living the life of the Jetsons. We're living it now. And I could never have, I just thought about that. I was like, who would ever thought I would be standing under a tree?
Right.
An hour and a half away, and be able to do this joint visit with this very, very skilled PT assistant, and have it be all right to do, and have it even possible to do, for one thing, but then for it to also be okay to do from the standpoint of insurance and all that. So I find that just absolutely, that's part of the fascination of all this, is that we have the technology to allow this, If we had had COVID in a pandemic 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, we wouldn't be in the position to do these things that we can do today.
Right. I had a family actually call me and they were on vacation and I had no idea they were going on vacation. And I'm looking around and I'm like, that's not their house. She's like, yeah, we're at the hotel. And I said, you didn't have to call me. We could have waited. And she said, no, he was asking to call Miss Ashley. And so we want to do it here. And it was actually great. We got some really good stuff. So it is amazing. Like you're thinking, never would I've ever thought I would be on vacation with one of my patients FaceTiming. But it gives you a really neat opportunity to see them in different environments and different spaces, different people. So it's amazing. And we're blessed to have that technology available to us now.
Well, and even a different perspective, like some of my kids are an hour and a half distance apart. So kind of getting all of them in a day was a big scheduling. It took a little time. Yeah. So it's so nice to be able, oh, you want 10 o'clock and then you want 10:30. We can do that. We can make it happen. So you're able to fit so many more kids in and be able to see them when you really want to see them, like you were saying, whether it's during lunch or snack or, catching mom during nap time if she has a few questions. You're really able to be a lot more flexible in terms of scheduling and getting to see the kids.
And I think it has benefited families very much too. I mean, our little population, of course, takes at least one nap a day. So previously, if you had arrived at the home and the child had just fallen asleep, well, yes, you could do it and talk, or heaven forbid, try to wake the child up. But now we can say, let him sleep. Let me call you back, say in 2 hours in between some other visits. So it has helped with families feeling like they can adjust the timing for the visits. And like you said, 7 o'clock at night, or some of our fun 7 o'clock in the morning kiddo.
Right.
And on vacation, that's just.
On vacation, that's so cool.
It really is. It really is. Wow. Yeah, technology has definitely come a long way for sure. All right, so we have just a few more questions that I want to share with other families and providers that are out there watching. And if you guys could you tell me something that you've learned during COVID, something while working with families, like an aha moment that you didn't think, and maybe you've already mentioned it, something that you didn't think was going to be able to happen, and it has. And I know that in the beginning, everybody is just trying to process what's going on. And like you had said, Kathy, try to figure out, okay, what does this mean? What are we going to do with this? Of course, is insurance going to cover this? And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But what is the biggest aha moment that you've had in the past couple of months working with families virtually? Does anybody have anything they'd want to share? And you maybe have already said it.
Well, I can just, I talked a little bit about the issue of being able to be a supervisor.
Right.
It gives me a lot more freedom to be a more efficient supervisor. When I have 2 different PTAs that I supervise, and I can, in the past, I would have had to just go with one all day long or go to the next one, or if it was an after school visit, whatever. And now I could supervise one at 9 o'clock on a visit, and another one at 10 o'clock. It's much more efficient from the standpoint of my time.
Mm-hmm.
I miss, and I still do, it's not that I'm not ever going to go into the homes, but when we need to get that joint visit in, we're getting close to our time, we've got to get it in. I'll be able to do it now without it being such an upheaval. One thing that I have a bit of an aha moment was the fact of how much, when we are in the home, that oftentimes we intervene in difficult situations that we can't intervene with through the internet. And it's not good nor bad, it just is, as when you have the dog running and jumping, or the kids fighting, or whatever it might be. And I've had situations, some pretty odd ones, and in the past I would have been right there, that I could have intervened at the moment when someone else couldn't, because I would have been in the room, and I can't, do that. So,
Right.
that's something that I've learned. I had a situation where I had a little one, probably about 10 months old, and mom has a neurological disease herself and is not very mobile, but she
Wow.
knows what's going on. She's often sitting on the couch, and grandma's typically in the room and helping with the baby. Well, that particular day, mom's sitting on the couch, grandma was there, but she went in the kitchen just for a minute to go get a drink, there was a 4-year-old there who was the cousin, just to go get him a drink or something. And during the time that grandma stepped out, the 4-year-old started headbutting the infant.
Mm.
Now, it was a game, he thought, but it's just a little baby, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there kind of being calm, and I'm on the edge of my seat hollering for grandma to come back in the room through all these miles. So there are things like that I've learned, that how much I appreciated when I was there in person, that I could intervene in those ways that I can't. I mean, it's not that I can't, it's different. You just have to be a lot more aware, and I think it's real important that we have families aware that we need them to be right there, because we can't have them step off to go to the bathroom or something. They have to be right there the whole time. So I guess that those are a few things that I've seen. I think it's good. There are good things about it, and then there's challenging things about it for sure.
Sure. Sure.
And I'll piggyback on what Ashley was talking about as far as coaching. It is just wonderful to see when families do have the opportunity to practice a new skill. Or my personal favorite is when they call you right before the visit, or it's the first thing they say on the screen is, "Wait till you see what he's doing now."
Oh, wow.
Of course, the next statement is usually, "What did you do to get him to do that?" And to see that is empowerment. It's just the opportunity to practice the power that they do already have, but they might not have had the opportunity to practice it. And that, in my mind, that is where you really see the growth overall. And it has definitely improved our coaching on our end very much.
And I think also on that same vein of what you're talking about, Kathy, is our world these days is very sedentary. And this has been an opportunity where we say, "Do you mind? Let's go outside today. I'm watching. You can take your phone," and off we go. And they go outside and they show us the swing set, or they show us how they go up the steps in the front. And it just helps families to be able to be more active and be happy to be more active, because a lot of families just have so many wonderful things. And it doesn't have to be a big fancy swing set. I mean, it can be any number of things in the yard that they can play with. And I've seen a lot of that, of families just seeming to really enjoy the time with their children, enjoy it in a way that perhaps when it hasn't been that way, not that they don't love their kids and enjoy their kids, but it's to slow this all down enough to where they can really enjoy that special time of whatever it might be, of reading a book or going outside for a walk, or having a snack, whatever it might be. So I think I've seen that of an enjoyment and appreciation of their time with their children. Maybe I think I've seen that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Anne. And like some of the things you were saying about just the empowerment and them going ahead and working when we're in the house, it's a lot easier for them to take a step away, run and help the other child, run and take the other child to the bathroom. And not that those things still aren't happening, they are, but when they come back, they still have to be there to kind of go through those steps and go through those motions. And I think it's giving them so much belief that they can do these things with their kids, and they don't feel like it's necessarily weird doing them. They see them, they're able to help their kids. And I think that's really exciting for not just the families, but us as well, because that's exactly what we want when we're in there. But it's a lot easier said than done to get someone to engage when they're feeling nervous, they're scared, they don't want to do that quite yet. So it's definitely been a good experience, like you said, with also some challenges come along with it.
Yeah. I think there's less intimidation from families. When we go in and we make it look so easy, Not that we really think it's that easy, but we've been doing it a long, I've been doing it a long time. So it's not as hard for me as it is for a mom or a dad or a grandma or whomever it might be that haven't done it before. And I think sometimes that helps when we're just having to talk them through it without even being able to model it. One other thing, Ashley and I went to some training a couple of years ago, I guess, about infant massage. And that's been a real interesting thing to do because we have dolls, and to be able to take pictures of the instructions and send those to the family and be able to model on our doll while they have their baby, how to do these massage strokes to help their child. So I think that's been kind of an interesting thing of how that we could actually even do that with our dolls and the families with their babies. So
okay, thank you guys so much for sharing all these fantastic stories. It's amazing the things that have just been happening in the past couple of months. One last question, and Kathy, I'm going to direct this question to you. What do you think, because you're a program manager, what do you think is going to happen moving forward with Medicaid? And do we know anything about Medicaid and telehealth services continuing as an option for families? Do we have any information? Do you know of any information that has come out, or who might be supporting us through this pandemic? Yeah.
Well, let me pull out my crystal ball.
Yeah.
Magic wand, and then we'll be all set. I can tell you that there is a lot of work being done on the state level, surveying localities, surveying providers to find out how is this working, what are the benefits, what are the fallbacks of it, not only with Medicaid, but with private insurance. And there is support for at least having this as an option as needed. I mean, some of our families do not want anyone in the home. They, their child is medically fragile, and they are very comfortable being the one doing the work, and they would like to continue with telehealth. Others are eager to have it back in person as long as it's safe. Although speech therapy in a home wearing a mask is really tough.
I can only imagine.
So there is a lot of support across the state to continue to study this, looking at the outcomes. I mean, like the other folks have said, our outcomes continue to be very good, showing good results for this, and also a very efficient way to provide services. So I know we are hoping and we are pushing for at least the option to continue with telehealth where it's appropriate. So, but again, when my crystal ball, the answer, I'll let you know. But there, it's just like with the schools. Ours have been changing hourly with what is the latest, and they don't have the issue with insurance as we do. I mean, if all of a sudden insurance and Medicaid said we're not paying for telehealth, it would be really hard. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening imminently, but we're preparing, as I know most localities are, for any possibility.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that information. And we're all going to be on the lookout to see what's going to happen as the world, everything is crossed. Say your prayers, whatever it is you do. Let's do it. Let's make sure that we can keep providing these resources and these therapies for these families.
Oh, for sure.
Guys, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me and give share all this information to these families and providers that I hope are watching us. I can't thank you guys enough for what you do out there. It is critical that we really need these services to continue. with the pandemic or without, for virtual sessions to be available to families for any reason. I mean, even if there wasn't a pandemic, you know, if a child has the flu or sibling has the flu,
Right,
you
right.
you don't want to go into the house, and I wouldn't want you in my home if my other son was ill. So I'm really hoping that this, like you had said, Kathy, could be an alternative where needed, under certain circumstances. So I hope that this continues, and I too feel that it will. But again, I don't have that crystal ball either. I was hoping you had it.
Oh, I wish.
But guys, I want to finish off by saying thank you so much. And everybody watching, you are able to submit questions if you'd like. And we will get back to you with those questions. And thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Robin.
Thank you,
Yes.
Robin.